Dave and Lucy have been in business for a long time. They have a great business and a great team. After years of hard work, they wanted to increase their property portfolio with their dream home. But being self-employed, they found their bank's lending criteria very restrictive. They saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, the business lending experts. Edge Lending thinks outside the box and were able to secure a facility for Dave and Lucy to purchase the property. Edge Lending, making business lending easier.
Hey everybody, Scott from Edge Specialist Advice Network. Hope you're all well. Hey, today we've got another installment of What the Numbers Say, and we're using Visual Capitalist, and we're going to have a look at the GDP of countries. So what the gross domestic product look like. Gross spending measure is probably actually a better indication of what that is. However, it's what economists use. It talks about economic activity, and we're going to look at the top 10 countries and the trajectory over the last 10 years. So from 2015 to 2025, or the expected 25. Now it's inflation adjusted. And so I think it's probably a pretty good indicator. So here we go. Look, world's top economies, 10 years of growth. So 2015 to 2025, adjusted for inflation. So again, look, GDP is not everything, and you can spend a lot of wasteful money and have some great GDP numbers. So it doesn't mean that your citizens are getting value for that spend, but it is an indicator of base economic activity, so base spending in the economy. So here we go. Look, 2015. You can see. Look, the US was the big dog, and in 2015, and more than double China. So the next closest was China. It was half of the US. So the US is just an amazingly large economy. It's just the biggest dog on the planet. And you can understand why when they wield power and talk about tariffs and our consumers are going to do this and you're not anything like that. They really hold weight. They really are the big guy in the school grounds, right, in the schoolyard. And you can see over the last 10 years they've had a 28% increase. So it's pretty huge. But you look at this, what we're looking at here is the trend. And what I want you to focus on is the trend. Because 28% GDP growth over 10 years, when the US was pumping out heaps of free money, it's probably not that good a bang for buck. Look at China over the last 10 years, 74% GDP growth. So, getting close to 3 times the growth rate of the US in that 10-year period. And it's the trend that I want to sort of focus on. So let's go down. Germany. People forget how big an economy Germany is, and why when Germany has issues with their economy, the rest of the EU just suffers, and they've been suffering significantly. But you look at their growth rate, just 10%. The big issue, they decided that they weren't going to use and continue to use cheap energy. They closed down all their nuclear power plants, closed down all their coal power plants, put in heavy immigration, and just had expensive energy. And you can see they haven't really grown GDP-wise in that 10 years. Same as Japan. Japan's stuck, but it's been stuck for a long time. India. Okay, so we look at 2015, right? So the US was basically 10 times the size of India. It was huge, and it's still much larger. What do we got there? Maybe 7 times. So I mean, India's catching up a little bit, but we look at the growth rate, 77%. So it's outstripped China's GDP growth rate in that 10 years too. So it's doubled. India, it's India's century. We've all got to have a really good think about this. The trajectory of India and the base that India is growing off, and the demographics that India has. India has this amazing demographics. They have such a large workforce under the age of 35 and 40. They really are going to be the powerhouse of what's happening in for the next 40 years. And you know what? If you were going to put some direct investment into anywhere, as in direct, you're on the ground. I don't mean the Indian Stock Exchange. I don't mean a fund that says I'm an Indian fund from Fidelity, or I'm an Indian ETF. I mean, if you're going to put some money in the ground, India has all the fundamentals that go with huge growth and a huge growth trajectory. Costs are low, wages are low, super industrious, regulation is really low, and this is what you get. All right, so the trajectory for the amount of people coming out of poverty into sustainable, or I guess non-poverty living, and even a big middle class, it's probably about 300 million middle class there, which is the size of the US. So they're going to be the biggest consumer. It's going to be amazing what happens to see with India. All right, so cruise, look down. You can see all the really low growth rates over that 10-year period with all these, all of our EU countries, Five Eyes countries, G7, the West is what we call them. Russia didn't perform that well either. South Korea is interesting. You put South Korea up to a lot of technology and chips, things like that. Australia 25%. We punched out a lot of resources. People bought a lot of coal off us, coal and iron ore. That's pretty much all that was. Come down, look, Indonesia. Okay, so Indonesia is another one of the big hitters in growth rate, and that's going to continue as well. Indonesia is another one to watch. So you look at that. So China, India, Indonesia, all in Asia, all in that Middle and Southeast Asia, right? So this is why when we speak about where the opportunities are for you as a Western person, they're not in your continent, they're not really in your country. Maybe if you're in the US, but if you're in the Commonwealth countries that are dying, then if you said, where am I going to set up a new little flag? Asia's where the growth's at, and that's so you bank yourself on that. Okay, Turkey, what is it? Halfway Europe, halfway Asia, huge growth as well. Really like Turkey's economy actually. So they're interesting. They sit on the fence. They're part of NATO. They trade with Russia, but then they'll talk about going to war with Russia. They're probably moving back towards they've just taken a big chunk of Syria, so there's some oil there for them. They do a lot of trade. They're the gateway through that passage up from the Mediterranean up into the Black Sea. So geographically, they're a pretty amazing outfit. I like Turkey, and if capital wasn't an issue, I'd probably look at getting a second citizenship in Turkey. All right, guys, look, again, yes, and we understand that the US and China and Germany and Japan, these haven't really changed. It's the trajectory that we want to watch, because trajectory, it talks about future growth. Future growth is how you make money. And China, India stand out, Indonesia, Turkey, right? These are Turkey. We haven't spoken about Turkey in a while. Okay, so these are some of the big things that are going to be some of the themes going to be running through investment, investment decisions for the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and that'll affect you and it'll affect your kids. So, all right, guys, another one of what the numbers say. Remember, life is a family sport. Give yours an edge. See ya.
Phil owned an established business and it was really starting to grow. But he was using credit cards as an overdraft, had overdue accounts from suppliers, as well as a tax debt with the ATO. He needed to consolidate this debt and free up working capital. He saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, who helped him replace these high-interest debts with one simple facility with lower repayments. Edge Lending Solutions, helping established businesses to grow.